It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
First day of the last month of the year, but ZiFM Sport is still going strong. We are still here, giving you all the news stories that you need to know out of the world of sport, local as well as international. It's Christmas season, but the world of sport never goes on holiday. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and the team is here to present another exciting edition of your favorite sports show, ZiFM Sport. That team is Christine Midzi, Barry Manandi, I am Mike Madoda, and the man behind the desk making us all tick is our producer, Sean Tafirinika. What can you expect? Well, it's a big story on the home front. It is almost the equivalent of a heavyweight boxing match, and is playing out in the full glare of the public. In the red corner, ZIFA. In the blue corner, the SRC and the Football Association, ZIFA, have turned to the usual defense shield as they have written to FIFA alleging interference in the administration of the domestic game, as the impasse between them and the Sports and Recreation Commission continues unabated. We also have some international sports news for you today, being a Tuesday. It's our staple, the Formula One report, proudly brought to you by Zimoko, where race officials have praised the modern safety systems developed for Formula One racing on Sunday after Romain Grosjean survived a high-speed crash and fireball blaze on the opening lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix.
In Around the World in 60, we start in England, where World Rugby has announced the Women's Rugby World Cup will expand from 12 teams to 16 teams from 2025 amid efforts to further spread the sport. In Australia, limited overs captain Aaron Finch has played down pace spearhead Mitchell Starc's poor form, attributing his struggles to the quality of India's batsmen. And in news from Argentina, Pablo Matera has been stripped of the Argentina captaincy and suspended along with teammates Guido Petti and Santiago Suchino for posting racist comments on social media.
Well, it's time for our play of the day. Then we dive into the beautiful game. Edinson Cavani has apologized after his joy at scoring twice for Manchester United against Southampton was dampened by an investigation by the Football Association into a social media post he subsequently deleted. And there's UEFA Champions League action tonight. Atletico Madrid boss Diego Simeone believes his side have no room for error in their group ahead of hosting Bayern Munich tonight. And also ahead of their clash tomorrow with Manchester United, Thomas Tuchel hopes to see another Paris Saint-Germain after again condemning a perceived poor attitude in their draw with Bordeaux in Ligue 1 over the weekend. All of that and so much more to look forward to in this edition of ZiFM Sport. Our power play, Go Crazy, Chris Brown and Young Thug.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Don't forget, we love to keep it interactive right here on ZiFM Sport. How can you do that? By tweeting us at ZiFM Sport on Twitter. You can also follow us in our individual capacities. Now, let's get into the meat of the matter. The big story on the show today on the home front is that a heavyweight battle between ZIFA and the SRC, and it's getting uglier and uglier with each passing day. And ZIFA have now turned to the usual defense shield as as they have written to FIFA alleging interference in the administration of the domestic game as the impasse between the Football Association and the Sports and Recreation Commission continues unabated. The association's chief executive, Joseph Mamutse, was suspended by the SRC last week, pending investigations into allegations of flouting the national COVID-19 health regulations. The Sports Commission were not happy national teams were cleared to undertake foreign trips without the necessary approval of the responsible ministries of Youth, Arts, Sport and Recreation, as well as the Ministry of Health and Childcare. Now, just in case you're landing from planet Mars and you don't know what on earth we are talking about, well, let me give you a brief recap, okay? We've got the SRC who have come out all guns blazing and have pointed their fingers, or should I say, their guns at ZIFA and say that you bungled, you messed up, you didn't follow the protocols that we put in place that would see teams travel abroad or in any foreign country or territory for any sporting engagements. So you needed to have done A, B, C, D, and E, and you haven't done that. And as a result, we are coming down hard on you. We are asking, of course, for you to suspend your CEO. In fact, we're not even asking, we're telling you that your CEO is suspended. We have also suspended our own Director General, Prince Mpariziriwo, over this case because he has been found to be complicit in this whole shenanigan. So that's it in a nutshell. And ZIFA have said, no, you guys are overreaching, you guys are flexing, you have no jurisdiction whatsoever to be doing the things that you are doing. Is that true, Barry?
Well, look, now with everything and the mudslinging that's been taking place, you can't tell the wood for the trees. It's hard to tell who's right and who's wrong. And in truth, they're both right, because if you look at the SRC Act, Section 30 gives the SRC the rights to do everything that it's done and to go into an NSA, of which ZIFA is one, and try to bring order to perceived chaos. When you look at
can I
ZIFA,
stop you
the
there,
ZIFA
Barry?
statutes.
Can I stop you there? You've mentioned that act that allows SRC to act. Perhaps the more pertinent question is, was there an opportunity to act? Was it necessary to act? Was there any reason for them to act?
I think there came a reason to act as a result of what I believe is the fundamental problem, where these two important organizations in sport in Zimbabwe are not talking to each other. So what's happening is that alerts, letters, communiques are going back and forth, but there's no real conversation happening where there's a meeting of the minds. So the Sport and Recreation Commission approves the return of football and says that under these protocols you can return football locally. Then after that, issues another communique to NSAs saying that foreign tours and whatnot will be governed by these rules. You're supposed to apply within 30 days, blah, 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 blah. ZIFA, in the meantime, is going on the initial approval that football can return and believes that we can go ahead and carry on quietly. Now, had people just picked up the phone and talked to one another, I think a lot of this would have been avoided. So, yes, then there was a need to act, but the need to act was as a result of something fundamental not being followed through.
Something fundamental not being followed through. And does it concern you, Chris, when you watch this or at least follow this and it's playing out mainly in the public domain? It's playing out mainly in the media sphere. Barry has pointed out that there doesn't seem to be the meeting of minds, certainly not the meeting of bodies, because these are two organizations that could have just called for a meeting, sat together in one room and sort of like just dotted the I's and crossed the T's. But there doesn't seem to be that. Both organizations seem to be content with issuing communiques, issuing press statements, instead of just short-circuiting the system, coming together to protect the integrity of both organizations. At the moment, right now, there seem to be no winners between the two.
There seem to be no winners. And what's unfortunate is that this is all playing out in the public sphere. And when we say the public sphere, we can talk about Zimbabwean media, we can talk about local media. But when certain issues arise, there is going to be international media that is going to be in sort of seeing exactly what's going on in our country. Now you've got two bodies who are supposed to be working together and they're not even able to communicate. If you take a look at some of the communication and some of the wording, the language that's used in there, this is a lot of very violent, very
They're flexing.
They're flexing. There's a lot of who has the bigger cojones going on, and this is all happening in the media sphere. And that's not necessarily what's supposed to be going on. This is not an opportunity to flex. These are people's livelihoods. These are the lives of athletes that are, being toyed around with almost. And it's just unfortunate that we've gotten to this place where this is about ego, when instead the whole point of having these two bodies is to regulate sport.
Well, the old adage, I think, rings true. There's an old African saying which says that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And there is the opinion that whilst these two entities are fighting, football is suffering. Now, we are pleased, of course, to have as part of our team, Alois Munjira, a man with football at heart, especially at grassroots level. Alois, football perhaps could be the biggest loser of this battle between ZIFA and the SRC.
Of course, Mike, that is what we are seeing at the moment. That football definitely the loser. It's not just from the battle. It's also from the ineptitude. The way these two bodies are operating as well. They're not really for the development of the sport. Like Chris said, they are busy with their egos, not busy with putting structures together so that we can actually develop sport. It's very disheartening. They are fighting. Look at the issue of the under-23, barring the under-23s from traveling. Who suffers? What suffers? It's football that suffers. It's the boys that are aspiring to be professionals in future that suffer, because these are the kind of tournaments that make them grow, that make them professionals of the future. But they don't care about that. Nobody is worried about it. They are busy fighting. Right now, they're saying, okay, now you can go. You see, by that time, the preparation, everything is disrupted. They're not so sure. People are disheartened. There's no faith. They're now traveling in bad faith. A lot is happening that is actually negative for the game of football. So, like you said, that they are busy fighting, but they are destroying sport. When I look at the situation, look at the Zimbabwe football, they are so passive. And then I don't blame the SRC for trying to act as well, because here is a football association that is so passive. They are not doing anything. It's like they're non-existent. So it's actually a sad situation, Mike.
A sad situation indeed, Mike. And for me, I want to add on to what Alois is saying on this basis, that I think that ZIFA in themselves need to do themselves a favor by realizing that they operate within the borders of Zimbabwe and the confines of the Zimbabwean law, but at the same time report to Zurich. They don't operate in Switzerland. So it's important for them to pay the required amount of respect to the SRC, and also live according to the rules and norms, standards according to the SRC. That is the governing body in Zimbabwe. And I feel that ZIFA bumps their nose up at the SRC and thinks, well, you can't touch us because we will just plead government interference.
Yeah, and the issue of government interference, of course, is the one that has seen Mamutse approaching FIFA General Secretary Fatma Somura, challenging the decision by the SRC to suspend him. He is, of course, argued together with ZIFA that the Sports Commission does not have any jurisdiction. But here is the thing now, the Sports and Recreation Commission, they are digging their heels in, and they've reiterated that they will not back down since there is no room for lawlessness in domestic sport, and tough decisions will be taken to stop sport from sliding into a dark pit. And Chris, that's what Alois, I think, alluded to. The fact that the mess at 53 Livingston Avenue is well documented. It's well known that the Felton Kamambo regime, as it were, at ZIFA has failed. If anything, football has gone backwards. I mean, under Philip Chiangwa, we thought we had really reached the low of the low. We didn't think we could go any lower. But Felton Kamambo has absolutely failed in his mandate to take Zimbabwean football forward. So the SRC seems to be coming out and saying, you know what, we need to clean up the mess at 53 Livingston Avenue. Can you blame them for that?
I don't necessarily blame the SRC for trying to intervene and to ensure that Zimbabwean football is well run. I don't blame them for that, and that's part of the reason why we have an SRC. But I think that some of the opportunities that they take don't necessarily present the best opportunity for them to be able to do so. Take, for example, the fact that ZIFA was given an amount of money by government. These are government funds, part of which were for the AFCON tournament. They obviously, the SRC has made that request for the audit. That is the opportunity for them to be able to see if there's any criminal activity at ZIFA. This is actual evidence that they will be able to take to FIFA. So I think it's just some of the opportunities lend themselves for ZIFA to be able to just, run back to mummy, which is FIFA, and say, you know what, there's government interference going on. Should the SRC be doing something to ensure that Zimbabwean football is running well? Yes. Are these the best opportunities to make sure that that's what's happening without compromising the athletes? I don't think so.
Barry, is it a case of communication? You are a communications man, because in the public sphere, we've talked about this battle is playing out in the public sphere, in the public domain, in the media sphere, and in the media domain. The one thing that we have seen is that the Zimbabwe Football Association have almost been over-communicating. They've been coming out now and again, regularly releasing media statements. They are SRC, not as much. And when they do release something, it does not have the detail that Chris is talking about. Chris is talking about certain things that may not be in the public domain that the SRC should be talking about and should be putting on paper to say, okay, guys, this is our case as far as the Football Association is concerned. These are the things that we are pursuing. This is why we're holding ZIFA's feet to the fire. Is it a case that the SRC could do better with the communication? Because take a look at ZIFA. There was a 9-page document that was released just a few days ago, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. And look, for us who are pundits, who are analyzing beyond what's written on the text, we'll say, thou protesteth too much, and quote Shakespeare to them, and wonder, okay, what are you trying to hide in your 9 pages? But yes, to answer your question, I think that the SRC also could do a lot more to communicate what the base issues are, what they are doing, have done, etc., so that they begin to win the public opinion and shape the public opinion. The tragedy is, guys, we're at a very dangerous place right now, whereby if this carries on and this war continues and escalates, there's huge potential that Zimbabwe could be banned. Now, if that happens, that's the nuclear option, and everybody suffers.
And I want to ask you, Alois, to bring you in on that point that Barry has raised. Can Zimbabwe football afford a ban?
No, not at the moment, Mike. We are sitting pretty for AFCON qualification, of which I can actually see us qualifying. Those are the issues that's why we are playing football. Anyway, to qualify for this tournament, so that we can actually develop football, we can make football popular, sports tourism. There's a lot. There are a lot of spin-offs. Even for the Sports Commission as well. We need to do that. We don't need a ban. Like Chris said, SRC need to play smart. They need to find the right opportunities and the right reasons for them to be delving into the ZIFA affairs. They need to also push from the background. It has to be sometimes diplomacy, not to be harsh, flexing muscles. Diplomacy, go down, sit, communicate, and solve these issues so that we can actually move forward. Like I said, I'm not happy with ZIFA. They are too passive. They need a kick at the back, but SRC need to know how to kick at the back.
Yeah, absolutely. So the tactical approach is the one that Alois is calling for. And I think it's important that people do get to sit down, find a place where they can agree for the good of the game. And then the SRC as well, they need to get their timing right, like Chris has said, you know what, to push through the issues that they need to push through if they want to hold ZIFA's feet to the fire. No doubt this is not the last time you're hearing of this issue on ZiFM Sport. It's playing out in the public domain. We did say as more and more information comes, we will give you more and more analysis and discussion of that fight, the heavyweight clash between the SRC and ZIFA.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Local sports news roundup starting with cricket, where Zimbabwe star batsman Brendan Taylor top scored for Candy Tuskers as they claimed their first win in the inaugural Lanka Premier League. Taylor's 51 off 35 balls came in his first match of the tournament to help Tuskers to 196 for 5 from their 20 overs as they beat Gore Gladiators by 25 runs in Hambantota. On to golf news. Scott Vincent was the highest placed Zimbabwean professional golfer at the Alfred Dunhill Championships, ended on Sunday at the Leopard Creek in South Africa. Zimbabwe were represented by Scott Vincent and, of course, Ben Follett-Smith at the tournament. Vincent, who also made the cut in last week's South Africa Open, finished tied in 17th place with scores of 72, 70, 71 and 70 for a total of 5 under par. We wrap it up with athletics news. We're following their interprovincial championships on Sunday. The National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe, the NAAZ, must say they are impressed with the times. NAAZ Director for Coaching, Talent Identification and Development, Lisimati Pakamile, said there were some encouraging performances. The competition was held at White City Stadium in Bulawayo and was their first event since March.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula One Report. The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
With the festive season now upon us, we encourage all our Mercedes-Benz and Jeep customers to bring their vehicles in for a service at Zimoco. As the only official distributor of Mercedes-Benz and Jeep in Zimbabwe, Zimoco know exactly what is needed to keep you and your family safe on the roads. With lots of knowledge, over 50 years of experience and high-quality, genuine parts, our service ensures that you can rely on our components every single day. Because safety has a home here at Zimoco. Service your Mercedes-Benz and Jeep with us. With this in mind, Zimoco are offering special pricing on the servicing of your Mercedes-Benz and Jeep vehicle.
And as always, we'll tell you exactly what it looks like, because on your Mercedes-Benz minor service, our promotion looks like this. It includes oil filter, air filter, plug, washer, oil, labor, and consumables. The prices range from $248 and $330, of course, that being United States dollars, depending on the model and engine size. And our Mercedes-Benz major service includes oil filter, air filter, dust filter, plug, washer, spark plugs, oil, labor, and consumables. Prices range from $438 to $680 depending on the model and engine size.
Now, Jeep minor service promotion includes oil filter, air filter, plug, washer, oil, labor, and consumables, and the price ranges from $260 to $497 depending on the model and engine size. And our Jeep major service, which includes oil filter, air filter, dust filter, plug, washer, spark plugs, oil, labor, and consumables. Prices range from $580 to $733 depending on the model and engine size. Why don't you email your inquiry to inquiries@zimoco.co.zw for more information, or simply visit our Zimoco workshop, 24 Douglas Road, Workington, or our Borodale Service Center at Sem Levy's Village to get your Mercedes-Benz or Jeep service with us today. Now, stay tuned to find out more from Zimoco on the Formula One Report.
Z.
All right, now race officials praise the modern safety systems developed for Formula One racing on Sunday after Romain Grosjean survived a high-speed crash and fireball blaze on the opening lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Safety and official medical car driver Alan van der Merwe was on the scene within seconds as he followed the field after the start of the race, and along with Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ian Roberts, as they battled the blaze to save Grosjean's life. Formula One Managing Director of Motorsport, Ross Brawn, believes the Halo head protection device saved Grosjean's life.
Clearly shocking for everyone in Formula One to see an accident of that severity. We're not used to that. Fire being involved as well. But I think a tribute to the work that the FIA and the teams have done over the years. I think, we remember the controversy of the Halo when it was introduced. And I have to give credit to Jean Todt because he insisted that it should come through. And I think today we might be looking at a different situation if we didn't have the halo. And for me, that's what Prize managed to keep the barrier apart when the car went through it. But I'm sure, we'll have a deep investigation to understand what we can learn from it.
Now, Chris, we've seen a lot of interventions by Formula One to bring safety into racing. And one of those interventions was, of course, that halo that sits above the drivers. And when it came in, even Romain Grosjean himself wasn't a fan of it by his own admission, but it certainly saved his life. So great job by Formula One by bringing safety into a very dangerous sport.
It's an incredibly dangerous sport, and Formula One, just as the vehicles get more and more advanced, will need to continue to have these safety features, to increase the number of safety features, and rightly so, because in this scenario it was that halo that actually saved his life. The drivers may not like it, the constructors may not like it, but some of these interventions, as it were, by Formula One are absolutely necessary if the drivers' lives are going to be sustained.
And the thing about these interventions as well, just to add to what Chris is saying, is that they're usually deeply unpopular whenever they're introduced, whenever they start, adding the safety features and safety regulations. A lot of people within the sport always complain. We're seeing or hearing the same conversation taking part in football about the concussion protocols, where a lot of players, Troy Deeney has come out and say that we don't need football adding more restrictions to players. But you then realize the importance when you are actually involved in an incident where the protocol saves someone's life or saves your life. So in this case, that halo saved his life, Barry. If it wasn't there, we would have been talking about life-threatening injuries. And if he had been injured, Barry, there's no way he would have escaped that fireball. He would have been burnt to death in that car.
He certainly would have, and we were all fearing the worst when we saw his vehicle hit and career into the side boardings and blow up into flames and split into two. But miraculously and thankfully, he walked away from it. Just looking at the driver's standings, Lewis Hamilton is, of course, the champion. That's not going to change. He's on 332 points after winning in Bahrain. And then in second is Valtteri Bottas, his teammate at Mercedes, 201 points. In third, Max Verstappen with 189. He's of Red Bull. Now, Renault's Daniel Ricciardo is in fourth on 102. And then Sergio Perez of Racing Point is in fifth with 100 points. Sebastian Vettel of Ferrari is sitting in 13th position on 33 points. And the constructors' standings pretty much the way that we left them. Mercedes out in front, 533, they're already champions. Red Bull in second, McLaren in third, Racing Point is in fourth, and Renault is in fifth. They're staying in Bahrain for this weekend Sakir Grand Prix. It's at the same circuit, and hopefully it will be incident free. One thing that it won't have is Lewis Hamilton. He tested positive for coronavirus earlier today, and Mercedes will be announcing the replacement driver.
Now, finally, we have just received new stock of the Jeep Renegade 1.4 litre petrol Longitude, the all-new Jeep Wrangler 3.6 litre petrol Sahara, and the Jeep Campus Trailhawk 2 litre petrol. The Jeep Wrangler doesn't back down from a challenge, which is why it is the most capable Wrangler generation ever. The Wrangler combines 80 years of revolutionary off-road expertise and innovation with a history of 4x4 capability. Every Jeep Wrangler proudly wears the trail rated badge, so you're ready to explore places that others wouldn't dare. There's a whole world out there, and the Jeep Campus is ready to discover it with you. With trail rated capability as well, the Campus Trailhawk 4x4 can take on whatever lies ahead. This compact SUV is not only bold, tough and beautiful, it also has amazing fuel efficiency. But I wanted to talk about the Wrangler, Barry, because you have to know the Jeep and if you watched TV in the 80s and if you watched movies back then, Jeep.
Yes, indeed. Do Jeep and it's certainly the marquee of the Jeep range, as it were. because it is so iconic. Let's talk a little bit about the Renegade before we get out. Now, it has a fresh spin on iconic G-brand styling and brings a bold, rugged look that's built to stand out wherever you go. This compact SUV is designed for peace of mind. While you're on the lookout for thrills and adventure, the Renegade offers over 70 standard and available safety and security features looking out for you and your crew. Pop down to our Zimbabwe showroom in Sam Levy's village and take a look at these awesome Jeep vehicles for yourself. Who knows? You might be tempted with an early Christmas present for you or your loved ones.
The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, this is Alexandra Maseko, and I'm the national basketball team captain, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in England, where World Rugby has announced that the Women's Rugby World Cup will expand from 12 teams to 16 teams from 2025 amid efforts to further spread the sport. The expansion comes as the sport's governing body continues its strategic planning for the development of the women's game. Bill Beaumont says the announcement was a milestone moment, arguing that the expansion of the World Cup opened up additional aspirational and inspirational playing pathway opportunities for unions at the highest level of the game and creates added incentive for unions worldwide to continue to invest and grow in their women's programs. We head over to Australia, where limited overs captain Aaron Finch has played down pace spearhead Mitchell Starc's poor form, attributing his struggles to the quality of India's batsmen. The left-arm paceman has been Australia's most expensive bowler in the opening 2 one-days against Virat Kohli's men, conceding a combined 147 runs for just 1 wicket. Finch conceded Starc hasn't been at his very best, but predicted the 30-year-old would improve as India's tour continues. We'll touch down in Argentina, where Pablo Matera has been stripped of the Argentina captaincy and suspended along with teammates Guido Petti and Santiago Suchino for posting racist comments on social media. The scandal has thrown the Argentina camp into crisis days before their final Tri-Nations match against Australia in Sydney on Saturday. The UAR said its board had met urgently after revelations of the players' discriminatory posts between 2011 and 2013.
Hi, I'm Vario's coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
All right, let's dive into England first and foremost. There were matches last night, and Fulham put their recent penalty woes behind them as they stunned Leicester with a shock 2-1 victory at the King Power Stadium to move out of the relegation zone. And in other news, Ollie Watkins endured a night to forget as he missed a penalty and saw an injury time equaliser ruled out by VAR in Aston Villa's 2-1 defeat at West Ham. Those are the matches last night, but then there's news out of England that has a meaty variety and we want to sink our teeth into, because Edinson Cavani has apologised after his joy at scoring twice for Manchester United against Southampton was dampened by an investigation by the Football Association into a social media post he subsequently deleted. Now, apparently, one of his friends congratulated him and he used the word negrito to thank his homie. Mike, just friendly banter among South Americans, or is this just a misstep by the legendary striker?
I'll agree with you, Barry. So it was friendly banter between him and someone. I don't think he meant it maliciously. It wasn't meant as an insult. And therefore, it's something that can be considered in mitigation. However, I think we have seen, Barry, the precedence that has been set by the Football Association around the use of these, because this is what you call casual racism,
right?
Where your ignorance is no excuse. So just because you use it in South America to mean something doesn't mean it's okay for you to come to Manchester and use it in the same manner in a totally different environment where people may be offended by it. So your intent doesn't become, doesn't see you get away scot-free. And I think we saw it with Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva as well. Remember that tweet around his friend Mendy, which again was seen to have racist connotations. So that then set the precedence that your intent really doesn't matter. As long as there is an offense, you will be punished for it. And for me, I can't see anything less than a 3-game ban for Cavani.
And also just to take into consideration that when it comes to these issues, he's not a random person on Twitter. He's not a random football fan. He's Edinson Cavani. And therefore, the size of the platform you have also comes with it some responsibility. He can say certain things in mitigation, but because he has such a big platform, it almost adds to the weight of exactly what he said on a public platform like Twitter.
Alois, is this a case for the culturalization of players? You've played in various markets around the world, and each has its own eccentricities and its own uniqueness. Do you have to be careful to culturalize yourself correctly? Because this probably would have flown in South America, but now in England, he's in a bubble first and foremost. He's got a glare on him, and he's got to realize that.
Yeah, I think footballers are in a very precarious position, precarious situation because of the glare that they have. Because it's not easy to just arrive somewhere and you start looking at books or looking at philosophies, starting to study the area that you are in, do's and don'ts. It's not easy. You arrive in South Africa, you start studying the culture of South Africa, which words I must not use, which words I should use. I think it's a very difficult situation. But like Mike said, he didn't mean it. You can tell because he's somebody who is congratulating him. How mean can you be to be nasty to somebody who is actually congratulating you and happy with you? So it's not that. So he obviously didn't know that it doesn't count. He's gonna get the ban. Yes, that's how he's gonna learn. He's gonna learn the nasty way. But for me, I still think that it's really bad to actually equate it to the Suarez issue. These are totally different scenarios. Maybe with Bernardo Silva, but not with Suarez.
Neymar, Mbappe, Depay, and now Tino Kadewere enjoys a taste of the French football on a ZiFM Sport.
It's a Tuesday, so of course ZiFM Sport has a distinctly French flavour. Thomas Tuchel hopes to see an improved Paris Saint-Germain after condemning a perceived poor attitude in their draw with Bordeaux. PSG led a 2-goal lead, slipped to lose at Monaco last weekend, and Tuchel said afterwards that his side did not play seriously enough and completely stopped playing football. Alois, when the season started, we were looking at PSG and saying, okay, they had a few players missing, and that of course impacted their performance. But taking a look now, their players are back and we're still seeing patchy results coming out of this team. What is the problem?
I don't know what is wrong with PSG, Christine, because we spoke about it. This is a club, when you look at their roster, a club that can actually win the Champions League. They went all the way to the Champions League final last season and we thought they could have won it, but unfortunately they made up with a very strong Bayern Munich. But they still got to the final. But when you look back now, the inconsistency is baffling because we don't know. They have the players, they have got the money, they've got probably the reason goes back to the situation of them playing in the French league. They are the epitome. They are at the very top. They don't have enough competition against the French team. I think that's where it's coming from. Because when you see them, sometimes they play like they're playing walking football. So probably they need a bigger challenge than they are getting from the French league.
I sincerely struggle when you got Chris, when you've got a manager who talks about a poor attitude, because I believe that any football team, any football player, and Alois I'm sure will confirm this, you play as you train. So if the attitude is bad, then the coach himself needs to look at himself and say that I need to infuse the right attitude into my players. So if these players are playing at walking pace, they switch off when they're in the lead and they feel that they've done a job, it's because they're not being told to remain hungry. There's a team like Manchester City. When they were beating everybody, they kept their foot on the pedal. Why? Pep demanded it.
But I just want to come in though, guys, and I say, I think Thomas Tuchel is so often a very soft target for people because, players are not really upping their game and so forth. I can understand those points, Barry. But here is the psyche, guys, and I think it's different from Man City. Man City, yes, dominated a couple of seasons and so forth. PSG is dominating season after season after season after season. I can understand why these players are now beginning to lack the motivation as far as the French league is concerned. That was where I think the main problem is. They've just dominated this thing. And even now, yes, he's complaining about a lack of attitude and he wants an improvement. But who's sitting on top of the standings? It's PSG. As poorly as they're playing, PSG is sitting on top of Ligue 1. That is where the problem is, guys. These guys know that they're going to win the French league, even if they're not enough.
Yes.
So maybe the adage is true. It may be a farmers' league, and as a result, PSG is not getting the best of competition from it, especially for their Champions League outings. Speaking of dominance, though, we need to give you an update on our Zimbabwean players. Tino Kadewere continued with his dominance over high school adversary, that's Marshall Munetsi, after his Olympic Lyon side outsmarted Munetsi Stade de Reims 3-0 on Sunday.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Champions League action tonight, and there are 8 matches, Groups A through to D. But we, of course, are going to start in Group A, where there's a big game on tonight. It is Spain versus Germany. It's Atletico Madrid versus Bayern Munich. And Diego Simeone believes his side have no room for error when they come up against the European champions. And he is right, isn't he, Alois? Bayern Munich, the European champions, worthy of respect, despite the fact that I think they're resting the likes of Lewandowski and a couple more key players, but they'll still be a formidable opponent.
They have got depth, Mike. They have got depth. And with teams that play with a system, Mike, it's just replacing a player that is out and going. Maybe Lewandowski, it might be difficult to replace a player like Lewandowski. But I think for the rest of the teams, they can actually pick and drop anybody and they can still play the same kind of game because they play in a system that is well oiled and you can actually see it when it's happening. So I don't think even if there is 3, 4, 5 players, they will still be the machine that we want to see. They are a very good side with a lot of depth.
Barry, Atletico Madrid going great guns in Spain. I think they're up to something like 26 matches unbeaten in that league. They're enjoying a fine start in La Liga, but their progression in the UEFA Champions League is far from assured because they're only 2 points ahead of Lokomotiv Moscow, who are playing Red Bull Salzburg. So they know that they can't lose against Bayern Munich. They would want to keep qualification in their own hands by getting a positive result tonight.
That's what makes him a very tricky encounter for Bayern Munich, because the one thing that we've seen this season and a bit of last is that Bayern Munich is beatable. They're not necessarily invincible. Secondly, what we've seen this season most certainly is that Atletico Madrid has found a healthy balance between attack and defense. They're playing a lot more attractive football. They've even won me over in some of the matches that they've played, whereby they've been strong, solid, stoic at the back, but still exciting going forward. So it's going to be a very entertaining affair between these two.
Your Group A fixtures: Lokomotiv Moscow versus RB Salzburg, Atletico Madrid versus Bayern Munich. Group B will see Shakhtar Donetsk entertain Real Madrid in Ukraine, whilst Borussia Mönchengladbach welcome Internazionale to Germany. Group C: Porto versus Manchester City, Marseille versus Olympiacos. And then it's Group D action, where the big game is at Anfield. It's Liverpool versus Ajax. Chris, we saw Liverpool lose to Atalanta. Uncharacteristic loss, that one by Liverpool, because a lot of people expected Liverpool to win that game since they had put Atalanta to the sword in Italy 5-0. But Jurgen Klopp ran the changes, made a host of changes, and he paid for it. You suspect he's going to go with a stronger team tonight versus the Dutch outfit?
I think he might go with a stronger team tonight and a bit of a different selection than he had last time. I think that game was, first of all, like you mentioned, those changes that he made, but also sometimes there are just some games, especially in a cup competition, that are a fluke, and I suspect that was one of those games for Liverpool, and they don't expect to be losing this next match against them again.
Ajax will not be an easy opponent. Alois, they are capable of turning it on and playing good football. And so Ajax will be looking over their shoulder, because they are currently leading Atalanta on goal difference at the moment, both teams being on 7 points. Ajax know that if they can get a decent result versus Liverpool, or even a win, it will mean that it will be Liverpool under pressure on the final match day.
Yeah, Mike, most unlikely though that they can get a win against Liverpool, but it's possible, and they might just go for it because they are capable. They're a good side. Of course, they lost a few of their good players after last season where they did extremely well, but they're still a good side. That's why I alluded to the fact that when a team plays with a system, it's always easy for them to replace players that go, because the other players just come in to fit in their system. So they are looking for a good result. It's a very tight group, and it's going to be exciting to see how it pans out. Especially, I think it's going to go to the last day of the qualifier.
And Barry, Jurgen Klopp, obviously knowing that victory assures Liverpool of qualification tonight, he'll be wanting to get the job done, but he'll also be keeping an eye on the health and the general fitness of his team. He'll be praying that there are no injuries tonight versus Ajax.
He will be, and he's been one of the proponents of trying to lessen the load on players and all sorts. He's been very vocal about it, and that's largely because Liverpool has borne the brunt of injuries, coronavirus, you name it. It's befallen Jurgen Klopp. So tonight he will just be hoping to get through this game with a win, yes, most certainly, but also with a clean bill of health.
Okay, predictions, guys. And the prediction I want from you is for Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid. Chris, which way do you see that one going?
Oh, one-way traffic. I'm going to go with a 3-0 for Bayern Munich.
3-0, my God. Ish. Wow. In Spain, at the Metropolitano, Barry. 3-0. This is without Thomas Muller, without Lewandowski. 3-0.
Yep. Well, I'm not quite as optimistic as Chris, even though I'm a Bayern Munich fan. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Atletico Madrid.
Alois?
I think this one is going to be very tight, Mike. I see a 1-1 draw here. Bayern Munich are not going to be as free scoring, and Atletico, they don't score as many goals either. So 1-1 for me.
1-1, and I guess the big question that needs to be asked is whether Luis Suarez will be available for selection for Atletico Madrid in this game versus Bayern Munich, because he could be the player that gives them bite up front, pardon the pun. But they still have Diego Costa, another player who's capable also of giving them a bit of bite up front. So that is your Champions League action tonight. Lots of action, but two big games. The biggest of them all at the Wanda Metropolitano in Madrid. It is Atletico Madrid, Los Rojiblancos taking on Die Rotten Bayern Munich, and at Anfield, Liverpool entertain Ajax Amsterdam.
A fitting place for us to end the show about players who take chunks of other players out of their system. We've taken a chunk out of your day, and thanks for letting us do that. We'll do that again tomorrow, 5 after 6. Don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.